There's a very high vibration, love, light, life. Look out at nature, look out at the night sky. Get into your own practice where you can start really bringing yourself into this place of what the universe is made of, what the divine is made of, harmony, peace, collaboration, service. It's going to take you to a heart-opening place. It's going to take you to a place of...
Steve Farrell is an entrepreneur, a global leader in the consciousness movement, and co-founder of Humanity's Team. From a Silicon Valley founder to spiritual visionary, Steve has dedicated his life to elevating human consciousness and fostering unity across the globe.
And we're always guided from beginning to end. Where we're given vision, we're always given provision. It's true. What we say in Humanity's Team is, if you don't go within, you go without. And if you do go within, you will be provided. It will come to you, both the vision and the resources.
Wow. The Icon's a show where we learn life lessons from those who achieved iconic success. And today, I'm excited to explore a wider perspective on that word, success, through the lens of consciousness and oneness. Steve Farrell, welcome to the Icons by Motiversity.
Tyler, hey, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and looking forward to this program.
Likewise. It's a real joy. It's been fun looking into your story, looking into the work that you do. It's amazing. I think that one of the things that'll be fun for us today is to help people understand some of these words, some of this language that feels inspiring, but also, sometimes tough to know how to interact with. And I've heard you say this quote, modern science has affirmed that everyone and everything in the universe is made up of energy that is intimately connected and interdependent. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, first let me say, boy, that's not just me. So it's the scientific research that's being published everywhere right now. It's the documentaries that we can see on Netflix and Amazon Prime. This, I call it, is the thing right now. It's a deeply interconnected world, interdependent world. In fact, that you could call it a universal consciousness animating all of life. Now, so what that means to me is consciousness actually operates on many levels. On this level, the macro level of just everything is a part of it. There's a very high vibration, love, light, life, and I don't mean these in some new age way. I mean it in a very practical, down-to-earth way, that if look out at nature, look out at the night sky, go into your daily practice, listen to the music that inspires you, and it will take you there. It's going to take you to a heart-opening place. It's going to take you to a place of deep connection. We're actually, at least in my case, thanking the Creator of, wow, this is such an unreal life that I have. And this work that I get to do, which is now a work of awakening, which we're going to talk about. We often call it the conscious lifestyle. It has many implications, but the implication I want to focus on here as we get started is just, it's very high vibration. It's love, it's light, it's life, which is our highest priority. And where we connect with that deeply interconnected, interdependent energy and live on that higher vibration level, we have an incredibly exquisite life. And I know we'll go a lot deeper on that.
Some of these ideas, they feel so near and dear. You say the word consciousness, and I think that every one of us, has an idea of what that word means, but there's also sometimes a bit of a mystery to it too. What does consciousness mean?
So consciousness operates on many levels. So there's the individual consciousness of just, if I'm just sitting here and I'm not conscious, of what I'm talking about now, this deep connection. There's the level of just what I'm thinking, the consciousness of me as a separated person. The consciousness that we're talking about, though, is the consciousness that is of the universe, of the cosmos, of as we know, there's almost a perfect bridge coming together between science and spirituality. My science friends talk about this consciousness as us being sovereign to this one body or one consciousness. They talk about it in the sense of we're inseparable from that one consciousness. They almost sound like spiritualists, but they're scientists. And they're sharing, so the posture you should walk around in, the self-image you should have, the just incredible sense of who you are and the power that you can stand in. It's amazing listening to science. This Nassim Haramein is the person I'm talking about right now with this Resonance Science Foundation. And of course, spiritual leaders down through the ages have been sharing this. My gosh, Plato and Hippocrates, this this universal consciousness. They were the ones that back in 450 BCE said that indeed there's a universal single consciousness of which we are all a part. And then down through the ages, there's so many people that have talked about this. In the 20th century and now in the 21st century, there's an explosion of scientific research and documentaries that are talking about this.
There was this notion that kept coming up as I was researching your work, and it's this idea that science is now catching up. And it does feel like we're kind of in a moment where, we felt like, I think our brains allowed us to feel like for a long time that science was leading the way. Like this was the thing that was uncovering truth. But maybe there's a reversal to that it is catching up. And to these things that we've known for a long time and can easily forget. And one of the things that it jumps out to me is I think about this idea of kind of universal consciousness. Because for me, it's still some new ideas to wrap my head around. But there's this term oneness. And I feel like I kind of understand that a bit differently. And it helps me understand what that might mean for me and for others and for the universe. But what do you see in that word oneness?
So there are the scientists, as I mentioned, that will talk about sovereign to this one body, this cosmos, that we're part of this larger body, that we're inseparable from the whole, that they'll even say the universe can't be without you. This is where that self-empowerment comes from. But now oneness has many other contexts as well. It has the context of, in a spiritual sense, that the creator and the created, that there's no separation between the two. Boy, sit with that one. The creator and the created have no separation. And this is a beautiful thing found in my own unfolding of what I call the conscious lifestyle. This is a big one because I started out as a kid. I was a Catholic church. I was an altar boy and things. And I would pray up into the clouds thinking, somewhere up here, there's the God of my understanding. Now, as I came into this wisdom, I was like, well, I can still pray up there if I want, but he is right here, right now. There's actually no separation. Boy, this is a big one, where you realize you're never alone. Oh my gosh. The creator of the whole universe, of course you're loved and cared about. Are you kidding? You're a cell in the body of this one universe, cosmos, or dare I say the divine. So oneness, that's a really powerful notion. That turns a lot of these belief systems that we grew up with, me and the Catholic Church, upside down, or maybe better said, right side up.
Oh, interesting. Well said. There's this quote from Rumi that came up as I was looking into this, and it feels like with some of these things, again, they're new words for a lot of us to interact with, but in the same way, they feel like it almost allows us to take a deep breath. Like when we hear it, it makes sense to us in a way that feels, like there's a depth to it. And this Rumi quote is, "You're not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop." And I find that's just so warm, so rich. What would you hope people hear in a quote like that?
Well, first, let me say, here again, the scientists and the spiritualists are coming to the same conclusion. The scientists here are saying we're holographic, that so you've got the whole in all of the parts as we go down through life. And then, as you mentioned, Rumi and spiritualists say, yeah, you're the whole ocean in a drop. So here's what I understand, Tyler, about that, the whole ocean in a drop. It's what I've felt into for many, many years. It's, first, like an oak tree comes from a little seed, right? Well, was anything added to that little seed? Some soil and water. Right? It grew into that oak tree, right? Or redwood tree, right? Or sequoia tree. Wow, a little teeny seed grew into that. And it was all there in the beginning. So we have examples of this right here in life. Now, as I understand it, the way it works is as we release these small agendas for ourselves, which is just what I want, what's important for me, the little self, as I release those and I embrace these larger agendas of the earth around me, the 8 billion people here, meeting the needs of people, meeting the needs of the earth, as I embrace this bigger agenda without adding any of my little agenda in. The more purely I do that, the more of the fullness of that power comes in. And if we want to see what that looks like on its largest scale, look at Buddha and Christ. And if you want to look at it on a scale that's not quite that big, but it's really big, look at Mandela, look at Gandhi, look at Mother Teresa. I could go down the list, right? So the more that we give ourselves to that big agenda in a pure way, the more power actually the universe puts at your back, and the bigger the miracles are that will manifest for you in your life. Up to and including it's all there. The whole ocean is there. What I'm sharing is from our little self. The Steve grew up as altar boy. It was all there, but I couldn't access it. And as I'm evolving and growing, I'm certainly not at the level of the people I'm talking about. But as I'm evolving and growing, then there are some pretty substantial miracles happening. There's a full power there, a wind at your back that's enormous.
That oak seed was in you the whole time. I like that analogy. When you bring up that idea of a hologram, I remember reading this through the work of David Bohm, and I don't know his work extraordinarily well, but I was captured by this, and that hologram idea just felt so out there. But then what he says is that if you take a holographic image and you shine a light on it, and it shows this three-dimensional something, and if you cut that image in half, like if you physically cut it in half and you shine the same light on it, you're still going to see the full three-dimensional image, that every part of that holographic frame encodes the whole image. And it blows your mind when you think about what if that was the case? And then you just let it sink in and say, I think it is. And it feels, again, kind of feels right in a certain way that, everything, the oneness is there. It's always been there. And that seed has all it needs to grow into that full tree. Yeah.
Tyler, if I can say this is just me, but it's 100%. There is no question. This is the secret of the ages that, as you know, this nonprofit 501c that I'm a part of, Humanities Team, we're 21 years old. This is our message. It's the missing message. These things that we're talking about. Look how empowering this stuff is. And again, part of it's not just that we're creating this exquisite life for ourselves. In that exquisite life, what conscious living means is we are devoted to the basic needs of the planet. We are devoted to the basic needs of people. And if that sounds pie in the sky, I would just ask listeners and viewers to just go, that are conscious, just go down their own checklist. Would I support, and go down the list, of things that are going to reduce CO2 emissions and extreme weather and overuse of land, water resources, the division that we see socially, politically, et cetera, et cetera. Just go down the list. And they would say, yep, I would help here. It's what we do when we live consciously. So it's a beautiful thing. There's a remedy here for what individuals are experiencing. And as we know, there's so many people that are feeling very, very challenged right now. Part of it is just because they look out the window and we can see that we're not right now making progress on these things I speak of that we're all too aware of in the outer world. And where we, on the other hand, where we go through this awakening experience or conscious experience where we come and understand the latest science and what Buddha demonstrated and Christ demonstrated, and we start living into it, wow, get ready for a really amazing life. I call it a delicious life, an exquisite life. So it's like floating on a raft instead of being on the roller coaster that I was on, this is a really bad day, boy, must be, something's in retrograde, this is a good day, right? Which is that roller coaster life is what so many people experience, and it's all very transactional and all these things. This is very different. This is the life that I would want for every person on the planet. It's what we're doing our level best with all of our educational programs in the Humanities Team to promote.
You said this phrase that made me, it kind of caught my attention. You said, when we give up our little agendas, it feels like, everyone, if you talk with people, they would say, I'm trying to build an exquisite life. And a lot of times their plan to do that is to work really hard on this little agenda. But you're saying, how it typically unfolds, how it actually unfolds is to let go of that little agenda and look at kind of the bigger agenda of the universe. And I find that really a fascinating concept. And you talk about this little self and the big self. What are they?
Yeah, let me enter this in because in all of this, of course, is contexted around how it worked for me. So I didn't have any. I wish I had a manual, pioneers that could have said, Steve, just do this and this and this. But we're all pioneers right now, right? So we're finding our ways. So the way it worked for me is that roller coaster life I talked about. Okay, now that is where I'm going to call that life that I was living outside in. Okay, and what I mean by that is I'm out, working and there's somebody frustrated, somebody angry, somebody, all of these things going on, toxic things going on often that one, don't feel good, and two, that I allow to enter into my system. That's outside, I'm living my life outside in. And I'd sleep, not great, of just, there were some toxic situations that were part of my life. With all of the things that are going on in the world that are deeply affecting you, right? Now, this whole process of where you're living into elevated consciousness, into this oneness, this is an inside-out approach. It's a completely different approach, an inside-out where we understand this oneness, that there's no separation. My God, that the divine is right in here somewhere, in me and you and the table, the earth, everything, where I understand that. And with all of what, again, even science is coming in with, of course, the spiritualists are saying love, light, life. But even scientists, are saying, no, it's harmony, right? It's cooperation. It's not competition, right? There's all of this pro-social movement that's out. So all of this is saying, it's not this Newtonian, Darwinian thing that we thought. Oh my goodness, it's a cosmos that's in like perfect harmony. It's beautiful, in the collaboration here, in the ecosystem of life. And then as I started building this kind of into my daily practice of communing with that higher vibration, that higher frequency, that night sky, that nature, that God of my understanding, and carrying it around with me throughout my day. That's the purpose of a daily practice, right? Is to get ourselves in this place where we're in this deep connection, where there's this interdependence in this really high vibration space. So then once I started living into that space, which is inside out, now I'm bringing that as an expression to my work, to my family, to my neighbor, right, to wherever I go. It's inside out, where I'm paying attention to my inner self and not just my outer self that's with material things. A lot of things just start shifting in a really beautiful way. Let me give you an example. As my wife would tell you, been married a lot of years, going on 25. I was more about, I really want to go to this place and do this and this. And with my family and even my coworkers, it's a lot of fun to say, well, what would you like to do? Where would you like to go? And also, and a lot of times people are having a hard time too. Both of my kids were adopted at birth. I have a son who has a severe case of OCD. He can have some real challenges, sort of sitting and having real quality time with Dylan and talking and things. So this inside out thing, this oneness thing, this elevated consciousness thing, it shifts us into this place where part of this delicious life or exquisite life is we start opening our heart, giving of ourselves. And here's the interesting thing, finding that it's not a sacrifice, it actually really feels good. It's like, wow, this feels real. That's why I call it exquisite life, delicious life. This feels really good. Well, what are you going to do with something that feels really good? Well, you're going to start doing more of it. Right? So, that's what we're out, our humanities team, what our nonprofit is, we're talking about our personal experience, our inside out living. It works a little different for everybody, but I think it's basically kind of what I describe here. And this is the bigger self is the inside out. The smaller self is the outside in. There are other things I could share about smaller self, bigger self, but that's kind of a quick one.
Awesome, Steve. I feel like there's so much I want to unpack there. Part of it is the daily practices. I think that it's a helpful way for, all of us to figure out, like, how do I interact with this? But I almost feel like there's a part of the story that's missing. And I touched on it in your intro that little agenda, that success that came from the outside in, you were really good at that. I mean, there was a stage in your life where you were building fast growth companies, had a ton of success in that regard. And then you transitioned into kind of a different calling. Can you give me a bit of context into what was happening and what that transition was?
Yeah, I can. So I grew up probably like your community, diverse mom, 6 brothers and sisters, little 1,250 square foot home. We had a dog too. Not that many bathrooms for a lot of people. And then I moved out to Silicon Valley, and boy, was I in the right place at the right time. So as you mentioned, I started a company with another guy, used furniture, little cheap executive suite, and bam, we were in the data communications internet space, and we went to 75 million in 10 years. And then we started a second company within the first company that went to 75 million in 2 years. And that gave me entrance then to president of Young Entrepreneurs for Silicon Valley, San Francisco, officer in Young Presidents Organization, people like the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, and the guy that runs the largest real estate equity investment trust in the world, Prologis, were right there in my 60-person chapter. So I was, boy, and the other people, by the way, 58 were they were amazing, all of them. So that was quite different than the way I grew up. And that's that whole world that we read about, that I was in for some period of time. Now, I had my own personal awakening experience during that whole time frame. And I honestly, Tyler, what happened here is I had this experience was that it felt like I was playing, I call it a kid's game, starting and growing companies in today's world. Because part of this conscious living thing, this oneness, this elevated consciousness thing is understanding also the cycle of life, that non-physical and physical, which probably doesn't sound too out there. Most people probably believe, there's an afterlife, something non-physical, and now I'm in a physical life. Well, we start to really deeply understand how that works on this conscious journey. And we don't have to look too far to see that, this planet could use a little help right now. There's some pretty big challenges. So I thought, and I really thought, not just a little thought, that at the end of my life, I'm not going to be very happy if this is what I do. That I stay in this 7-figure a year crowd launching companies. And I had this just massive calling that grew actually over months and years to leave and to contribute to what in Humanities Team we call this conscious living, these things we're talking about, to contribute to that. And so I did. I actually left, sold everything. I left YEO, I left YPO. I soon moved away from Silicon Valley. And for a year and a half, Tyler, I didn't even have anything to do. I left and I had 18 months where my wife said I looked a little lost, and I probably did, because I didn't have anything to do. But all I knew was that what I was doing wasn't what I was supposed to be doing, that there was some kind of opening, something that would be a part of my future journey, my path, my destiny, that I needed to serve, and I needed to let that go, let some doors close so other doors would open. Well, then sure enough, here about 18 months later, I'd come to know Neil Donald Walsh, who's this great spiritual messenger who wrote the Conversations with God books. And he reached out to me to say, hey, would you help me start Humanities Team, this nonprofit? And so we co-founded it. I launched it with him. And 6 months later, he said, would you, can you lead this thing? So 21 years later, here I am.
Wow. I find that so powerful because I think it shakes up a lot of, the autopilot that a lot of us are aiming toward, the path that we're on, trying to achieve on. And in lots of ways, when you think about that, quote unquote American dream, you were living it, you were leading it. And then you had this realization that, this isn't my purpose. And I think that a lot of people resonate with that. I think a lot of people feel like what I'm doing doesn't feel like what I should be doing. And they need to try to figure out either what their purpose is, or if they have figured it out, how to start enacting it. What would you offer somebody who's feeling stuck with their purpose?
I would offer that they just try some of the things we're talking about, the really basic thing of one, actually, where I would start is with compassion. People feel like they've been incredibly challenged, health-wise, financially, a lot of time in their relationships. People are dealing with a lot. There's anxiety, a lot of times even depression. So I would start there with just compassion, that if any part of what I'm saying is true, that the universe can't be without you, that there's no separation between creator and created, okay? If there's any truth to that at all, my God, we have got to find compassion in here, for we're a part of that, right? We're a part of that, the universe, the divine. My God, we deserve incredible unconditional love, and which, by the way, is here. But see, the thing is we almost like put a blanket over our head to not let it in, because we all grew up, unless we grew up as a Sufi, which I didn't, and I don't know anybody that did. We all grew up with the Newtonian, Darwinian of, there's not, everything is separated, of course, right? The earth is not part of me. You're not part of me, right? So we grew up that way, and then we put this pressure to create success, in this American dream way, and that digs us into this deep hole where all these things are going on in today's world. So I'd start with just compassion of really, really loving yourself, letting the universe love you that does love you, letting the divine love you that does love you. So compassion. Then next is create some quiet time. This daily practice thing of just turn the world off and just go to a place where you can go, outdoors or indoors, where you can quiet your mind and just say, okay, universe, okay, divine, give me some direction here. What are, this inside out style of living, this conscious style of living, this oneness, this unity thing, give me a little direction, guide me. And I will promise you, if anybody that is earnest about that and tries it will be guided. You will be guided, because we're not alone. And that'll start your own journey, your own unfoldment. And we're always guided from beginning to end. Where we're given vision, we're always given provision. It's true. So once you get your vision, just like Tyler with this incredible program that you've created, an organization, that vision, bam, here you go. With Humanity's team, here we go. So people will be given the resources to get to their destination, and the vision that comes to them through that whole quiet time. What we say in Humanity's team is, if you don't go within, you go without. Mm-hmm. If you don't go within, you go without. And it's true. And the opposite is true too, and that's the beautiful one that starts you on the way to this exquisite life of, and if you do go within, you will be provided. It will come to you, both the vision and the resources.
Wow. I almost want to reinforce that, maybe even just for myself, but when you're talking about, you're talking about these big things, these weights that people are carrying around, and in that world of survival of the fittest, it can sometimes feel like I am anxious, I'm isolated, I'm depressed, I'm not feeling the way that I should. And you're saying, the practices are, be compassionate with yourself, be compassionate with the world that you're in, and then take time to yourself and listen and reflect. And is that what it starts with? Like I think that people are wondering, like, are there more steps I have to take, or could I really just trust those two things? What's your experience of going through hard times yourself or for others? Like, is that where they start?
Yeah, absolutely. And let me say, I'm just like everybody listening here and watching this program, that, I was the middle kid in a family that didn't have anything. I paid for my braces when I was in the 6th grade. I didn't have anything. And if you read my book, my guidance counselor was telling me, Steve, you're average. You were just average. this is kind of what we grew up with this, right? And so that there's a lot to shake off with is what you're getting to, where we can get in these deep holes where it doesn't feel like I got the meaning here. I'm not feeling the purpose. I'm not even feeling great about myself. I'm certainly not feeling great about the world, right? These things. The beautiful thing is we can shift this and turn it around from any home on the planet. We really can. And we don't, the material stuff, I walked away from that in Silicon Valley because I could see, I sat there. I wasn't just in the front row. I was on the stage with all these people, living that. And we don't need to spend the time going into that, but I will just say this, that material success thing, the American dream as we understand it, where we go into that privilege, that's not it. Okay, that is not it. The stress on those people in their lifestyles. I actually have compassion for the billionaires there because I know what that lifestyle is like. The transactional, just drive it to your destination. Doesn't matter what the journey or means are, what pressure that puts on your partner and your family and your coworkers. You don't want that. That is not the ladder we want to climb. And on the other hand, this ladder, which from a little hut, any place on the planet, you can climb this ladder. You just quiet the world around you. Just understand the science. And by the way, we have lots of free programs on the Humanities Team website. But the articles are everywhere. The documentaries are everywhere. We don't need to go to Humanities Team to see what I'm talking about is true, this deeply interconnected world. And if you just give it a chance and just quiet the world around you and just take some of these first steps, compassion, going within, these are stepping stones that'll take you to this beautiful place that we're talking about.
You bring up this world that you'd built and kind of left, and then the world that you've now created. And I think, where my brain goes immediately is, well, not everyone can do that. Not everyone has had the business success where they can take 18 months off and build this new thing. And so my hope would be that people don't feel like, well, I can't make a move like that. I'm curious, when you think about both those worlds, what have been the qualities that worked in both? What have been the things that allowed you that were almost universal? Maybe the leadership lessons that you learned there that are now being practiced here. Like, what are the things you didn't need to change? I think is the question I'm asking.
Yeah, so let me first say, just so people, can stay with me and don't think, oh, he's, good for him to say. As I mentioned, I have lots of challenges. My son, has this, maybe one of the most severe cases of OCD that therapists have ever seen, to where my wife and I have traveled very little over the last 15 years together, where one of us needs to be home, and on a daily basis, a lot of challenges that go with that is one example. So, this, which by the way, just creates a spiritual gym. It actually, believe it or not, there's some goodness that comes out of that, though it can be very challenging. So, and then the way I grew up, I was the last one to think, I was going to have any great destination. I was not thinking that. I was the middle kid, I wasn't I was a listener. I wasn't the talker, So I'm like everybody, don't see me as somebody I'm not, because I'm just like everybody, with the same challenges. And but here's some things you're saying. So what are lessons there from Silicon Valley? So one is, these people have an incredible confidence, more confidence than I had. And that did help to elevate me in terms of, well, haven't done it before, but if they can do it, I can do it. In conversations, I was adding as much value to those conversations as they were when we were in a room talking and stuff. So there was an incredible confidence that came out of that. And confidence is just something that comes with time, the people that you're around, what you're trying and succeeding with. The other one is really testing throughout that time frame, this still small voice, I'll call it. There were, everybody in the world was telling me, at various point junctures along the path, Tyler, oh, you don't do that, man. When I left IBM to start my first company, they were like, oh man, you had a ticket. The 80s IBM was everything. And they said, you were a nut leaving and you're going to a little executive suite with used furniture. And then if you think that was bad, when I had, this whole conscious awakening thing and said, I'm leaving Silicon Valley, I'm selling everything, I'm moving to Boulder with my family. I don't know if I'll ever have income again for the rest of my life. Boy, they really thought I'd lost my mind. I had a family member fly out and tell me, hey, Steve, we love you. What do you, come on, look at what you're doing, So this is another lesson is just, I'll call it listen to that still small voice. We all have one. We all have one. It's what leads us to the vocation, if we're happy, or to the partner we have, to where we live. So if we really listen to it, especially when it's tough, then that you'll give incredible strength to that for the balance of your life, and you will go to incredible places. Now, here 21 years in, yes, there's a lot of interest. It's kind of our time here with this whole conscious journey. 10 years ago, Tyler, my friends thought I'd lost my mind. There wasn't anybody that wanted to talk to us in humanities team. Like, what? What are you guys doing? So, you listen to your still small voice. If you're told this is important, just keep working at it, and then your day comes, as our day has come here now with this whole conscious living thing.
Wow. First off, thanks for sharing about your son. I know it's probably not it takes some courage to share that both for you and for him. And I think that there's probably a lot of people who are listening to this who either feel something like that themselves or know somebody who's going through something like that. And I appreciate you kind of bringing that real day-to-day life into it, where it feels like, here's a story of Steve, this success story, that's just not my story, but you're kind of painting a different picture where, we're all going through this stuff. And no matter what the number is in your bank account, there's all sorts of stuff going on in your world. And I'm curious, as you went through that, because we're talking about 10, 20, 21 years now of humanities team, I'm guessing there were some tough times. There were some stressful times. There were some times where you actually needed to put these ideas into practice for yourself. And so what does that look like? What can somebody do who's not, again, maybe they have listened to this still small voice, maybe they do have a sense of their purpose, but they're just maxed out. They're stressed. There's lots happening in their world. Like, what can we do in a day-to-day environment to manage our stress, to feel like we can get back in control of our world, to then take a step forward?
Yeah, so that we talked about some of the initial steps here, of just quieting the mind, starting a daily practice, going within. And then, some of these other steps are just really hearing what is that thing, that station in life, I'll call it, that we're being called to, that we're being guided to. What is that? And then really, assuming it's a great passion, and usually it is, then really giving that your all, that passion, giving that passion your all, continuing your daily practice, turn it into something that you do throughout the day and that you love, as I do. By the way, I don't sit for 20 minutes. I'll often sit even for less than 5, because I just sit as I'm walking to where I'm going. I'm already putting myself in that place of intention, of really seeing a future that we're creating. I'm putting myself there. By the time I sit down, I am there, And then I don't stand up until I'm really feeling it. Okay, I feel it. This thing that we're creating, I feel it. It's coming into the world, and then I stand up. And often it's always less than 10 minutes. Often less than 5. And then I'll have 3 or 4 of these throughout the day, where it just feels so good. Where I'm put myself in that place. And of course, I did find my station in life early. We're talking about people that maybe haven't yet. They're still challenged. They're still in this place of even finding compassion for themselves. So really taking the time with that stillness, and I'm going to call it now a daily practice, because we're going to build it out into a little more than just stillness, where we're really deeply listening and to what we're being guided to, what really hearing the still small voice. And we don't have to I find that even in the night when I sleep and throughout the day, that still small voice keeps talking to me. I don't only find that in my daily practice. I find it all the time. It was in Silicon Valley, the thing that said, sell these things, get out, leave, move from Silicon Valley, leave it all behind. It was very, it wasn't even such a still small voice. It was kind of a still big voice that was saying, do it, and let's just address, I know we'll get to this, but I'll just bring in a little bit now. It's very scary, okay? It's scary. I mean, it was for me, telling my wife, Stephanie, I said, gee, I don't know if I'll ever draw another paycheck in my life. And we hadn't even adopted our kids yet. So with all of what kids, college and everything, my wife said, well, it's clearly a calling. Let's go. Let's go do this, coming into that, developing a practice where we're really listening within, where we're even bringing intentionality to it, intentionality of, the highest good that my family's provided for, even as I'm going to serve this big agenda, the big agenda, being what things that we're doing out in the world. Just watch how that unfolds, how that station in life comes to us, how the deep calling comes to us, how the devotion comes to us, the excitement and enthusiasm for what this calling is comes to us, and the still small voice supporting it. What happens, and I've seen this happen for so many people, not just me, is I call it a boomerang effect, where as we're serving that big agenda, some really beautiful, unreal things happen. So, for example, the studio is in my home in Boulder, Colorado. It's a beautiful home. And when we were looking to move in 2007, the realtor, the owner, wanted a whole lot more for it than we could afford. We came in, I think, 20% below, and we didn't think anything was going to happen, but bam, the owner decided to sell, and here we are 17 years later, living in a beautiful home. That was, how did that happen? There's even a bigger story, which I don't have time to tell, of just the incredible miracle that was. The people my colleagues and partners, the amazing, gifted people that are coming in, some just as pure volunteers, and others that are lightly paid, that are called to the same thing, that are giving themselves fully. This is all part of the boomerang effect of, hey, we're going to, let's go there. The world deserves to understand this whole inside out thing, this conscious living thing, this oneness, elevated consciousness thing. So the boomerang effect starts delivering resources. So you're not left without being able to provide for your family, even if you don't have income. There will be things that will happen, material and non-material, that will support you in huge ways. The thing you don't want to have happen, and this is where many people get stuck, because that's kind of what we're talking about, is a lot of times we want to put one foot in this world I'm talking about and keep the other foot where we are. And then you're just not going to create effectively there at all, where you're trying to keep doing old stuff and yet you're wanting to give yourself to new stuff with these belief systems really that aren't consistent at all. One is I'm separate, it's just my body, and the other one is I'm actually a part of this grand whole, which is the cosmos, the universe, the divine. These are not compatible belief systems. We keep one foot in both worlds, it's not going to take us anywhere that we want to go.
Whoa! I thought I knew what I was going to ask you next, and then you talked about this one foot in both worlds, and I could feel myself immediately react to that. I could feel what that feels like. I felt that at times where you are trying to straddle these two worlds, but it also speaks to this idea of fear, this word that you brought up. I think a lot of people would feel like they've got a foot in both worlds, but they're scared, and for legitimate reasons. To let go of what you have to try to go after this new thing is scary. And what do they do? Like, is that just a trust game? Do you just take the step, or are there different strategies? Like, how do you bridge that gap?
Yeah, so it's faith, not fact, until it becomes fact. So that's true. So I've had a chance now for 21 years to work with the near-death experience community, including, Dr. Eben Alexander. This guy is highly regarded by academics. He wrote the book Proof of Heaven. It really is. He's an amazing leader who's highly regarded all over the world. And then likewise, mediums. Suzanne Giesemann, who used to fly on Air Force One with the president, George H.W. Bush. And then through a series of things, she lost her daughter-in-law, who was pregnant. She died, and Suzanne left her high position in the military to just understand what happened to my daughter. Where did she go? And has become an incredible medium, and she's very a left brain, even as she's right brain. She's, somebody Air Force One. You're going to have a lot of left brain there too. So she's highly regarded. Hundreds of thousands of people watch her programs. And what these people teach is the non-physical realm is actually what I'm describing. It's in harmony. It's in collaboration. Love and light and life are what it is. If this oneness thing that we're talking about, they deeply understand it's the culture of that afterlife. It's how it works. And then we come back into the physical life. What is said is we learn this whole cycle of life, that non-physical life to physical life, is the whole reason we come into this world, into the physical life, is to be an emissary of that. Of our basis of who we are, of what science is telling us who we are. Now, if that isn't enough, then take this. Again, the NDEs and mediums all share the same thing. Let's go to the Stephen Covey, begin with the end in mind. Okay, habit number 2. So they share, at the end of your physical life, there is a life review. They all share this. There's a life review, a panoramic life review. Well, what is that? Well, what it is it's the people that you are with at significant moments in your life, you're actually in, not as a recording, but like in real life, you're feeling what they were feeling when they were with you. All of those people from the beginning of your life to the end, you're not in your head at all. You're in their emotional state of what they were feeling when they were with you from the beginning of the life to your end. That is the life review. It's nothing else. It's just that. So the things we're talking about, there's sort of a marinating in this. Whatever we create is what we take into our next, afterlife moment, where the things we're talking about create this exquisite life, delicious life, where we look after the basic needs of the planet and people, where I'm saying, it feels so good, why would you not do it? And then what I'm saying is at the end of your life, this is all that really counts. So people, we have free will. We're born with free will. We can do whatever we want. We can say, I like this separation thing. I'm going to live in it. I don't care what science says. And we indeed have the opportunity to do that. We can make that decision. I'm not sure it's the wisest decision, but we have free will, and everybody gets to choose.
That really struck me. As you talk about, I was curious in this conversation, and part of it's because some of this is new to me, Steve, and I was, exploring some of those big words that we talked about at the start, oneness, consciousness, and I was really, curious what those mean in your eyes, somebody who's kind of deep in this world. But I also wanted to see if you would be willing to kind of share your own experience and kind of bring that down to the level that you interacted with it, and I really appreciate you doing that. And what I was curious about it is, how does that then add back up? How does that then add back up to this universal oneness? And when you talk about that life review, that what you experience is the feeling others had when they were with you, alongside you. It feels like it makes sense of that ability to impact energy, to realize that what I'm putting out in the world is going to matter in ways that it's much bigger than me. And at the end of the day, in fact, that's a lot of what matters. And it feels like I can now start to see how this oneness can make sense to an individual, but that individual can make sense to the oneness. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think this is really, everything has its time, right? So there was the information age, right, when IT and technology and personal computer all were explosive. I do think we are now in the age of consciousness or oneness. History will tell us here years from now. But I think this is the big thing emerging because, again, science and research are getting published everywhere. Documentaries are being made. Clearly, this is something new on the scene that's coming in that people are looking at and wanting to understand where these things I'm talking about. Almost everybody's heard these things. They're not 100% sure what to make of these things because it all feels rather new. But I think there's going to be some massive change here in the years directly ahead as we all really get our head around what this is and the implications of it and whether and how it might improve our life.
Steve, what was the lesson that took you the longest to learn?
Okay, there are a couple. So one is the whole Gandhi nonviolence thing, of never going to triggered. Really, you can have the worst things happen to you and just training yourself through this oneness, this high elevated consciousness that, you're going to really stay in a really grounded, connected space. I talked about my son, with different things that have happened where I just never, ever go to being triggered or some kind of emotional state that isn't helpful, just staying in this really grounded, connected, hearing, loving space. This has been more near the end of my life that I've been able to really get this and practice this. And then another one is I have had some huge challenges. I've jumped off cliffs here in my life because my still small voice said, Steve, jump, just jump. And then, there are times where it's really challenging after I jump. And so just teaching myself to stay relaxed. Steve, this has happened before in your life. Don't allow yourself to tense up or get stressed. Just stay relaxed. The vision, provision thing, Steve, this one. You've been through this. There's another side of this. You're just flying through turbulence now. So both of these, I would say, are very much, later in life lessons for me.
Thank you. If you think about your son, I don't know how old your son is, or you think about kind of the 20-year-olds that are around you or that kind of that age, that stage of life, and you think about all that's going on in the world right now and what they're making sense of, thinking about, experiencing, what advice would you give that 20-year-old in your life?
This, where we were talking earlier about the inside out life versus the outside in, boy, I would invite them to really look at that and understand that. Just give a little thought to this notion that we grow up with just letting these toxic things affect us, and we take them in, and they emotionally affect us as we take them in through the movies we watch, the news we watch, the things that are happening out there. That it's all we find. Oh my gosh, it's an outside in type life, and even if we win the lottery and get this big American dream success, what I'm sharing is it still isn't serving you. This outside in thing, it's not serving you because everybody's stressed around you and you're afraid of losing it all and all this stuff. So outside in, I would say to a 20-year-old, just give some thought to this notion that maybe science is true and what these people earlier in the planet's history have modeled is true. This whole deep connection, this oneness, interconnected world, interdependent world, and start getting into that place of creating your own way of communing. Okay, meditating, praying, commuting, daily practice. We could put different words around this. Mindfulness. Get into your own practice where you can start really bringing yourself into this place of what the universe is made of, what the divine is made of: harmony, peace, collaboration, service, open-heartedness, these things. Get in a place where you can understand that and start bringing it into your life, this whole inner self that you're wanting to create. And then start living from that space. Even as an entrepreneur, by the way, the successes there in Silicon Valley. They didn't use the term conscious business back then, but that's why I did so well. Is I was, these things I was starting. This is where I was starting to practice these things. And I threw away my time management system. I'm not telling other people to do that, but I was too transactional. I was not inside out. And I said, my time management system is part of the problem. I'm throwing it away, And then my business really took off. That's its own story. But inside out, oh my gosh, your business, your professional life, your family life, your life, everything becomes so much better where we invest in our inner self and we let it anchor us and not the outer world anchor us.
Wow. I think more than just 20-year-olds need to hear that, including myself, who lives with a time management system. I think, there's, Steve, you've built this organization that's making one of the biggest impacts around the world on this idea of unity. What do you hope your legacy is?
So, honestly, I don't ever think about legacy because I know that that is one where people will judge. And candidly, I think some people will think this guy's a nut is my legacy, and others will think, wow, he really had something. So I think it'll probably be all over the board. I don't know, but I would tell you what I do think about every day is I have a 19-year-old and a 22-year-old, and I see babies being born into the world. And we talked at the beginning of this program about these enormous challenges out in the world and individually that people are experiencing. And boy, I do not want to pass until we're, at that tipping point, 10% of the population, 800 million people of the 8 billion that it's inside out, it's conscious living. We're understanding the science and we're living into it, each of us in our own way. Which can be quite different, by the way. That's the thing I think a lot about. I think a lot about that of, boy, God, don't take me until me and my partners and colleagues that are all incredible, giving their lives to this, and so many other people that aren't a part of this nonprofit at all, until we're really, this thing is out in the world. And here's the beautiful thing, Tyler, is what I'm describing, as this thing gets going, the nuclear bomb will be nothing next time. The power, Gandhi said, the most powerful thing in the world is nonviolence, right? Remember that quote? Well, this one, what we're talking about, where we really know ourselves to be what the scientists say, yep, inseparable from, sovereign to, part of, where we are living into that and we're experiencing this exquisite life. Hey, you're not going to ever stop that as that gets going. So we're just getting it going. But once this really gets going, the youth are running with it who are looking for something like this. Other older people like myself and others. This one, you won't stop it once this really gets going. So, and wow. I don't want to go until it's really moving.
Wow. I can feel the energy that's still driving you. And successful entrepreneur, successful not-for-profit, impacting countless lives through books, teachings, online programs. I mean, all sorts of things that are impacting so many people. And you've written a book. I mean, I'm kind of building this resume. And my question is, after all of that, what do you feel like is next for you?
So next is this, we are run, again, as I've mentioned, not from a career, but from calling. So, and that means we get these downloads as part of the calling. One of the downloads that came in the last few years was make conscious living pervasive worldwide by 2040. Okay, that's 16 years from now. So pervasive means you're at a tipping point. It's not everywhere, but it's beginning to tip. That's 800 million people living this way consciously 16 years from now. So that's what's ahead. Everything we're doing, the streaming platform we have for education, the summits that we create, the live events that we're doing. We just won the Oneness of Humanity Award. The Dalai Lama won it last year. We won it from Spiritual Life TV. This year, just had an award ceremony 2 weeks ago. Everything, it's all focused on that of 2040. Boy, let's just, and thank you for having me on your program. So we can get these messages out in the world and invite people to it and say, there is really something here. There's something amazing here.
Steve, I've found this to be really enlightening today. I really appreciate the time, the work that you're putting in, the impact you're aiming for, the 2040 vision. This has been a real pleasure for us and our audience. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Tyler, to you and your whole organization. Thank you.
Thank you.